All right, welcome to ESPN Football 2K4. The next game we're going to be looking at here in our Xbox Football Retrospective. This is a game I haven't spent a lot of time with because I got the next year version NFL or ESPN Football NFL Football 2K5 and spent a lot more time with that game over this one. But this did introduce a lot of sort of neat features to sort of differentiate it from Madden. You were given this crib that you could fill up with unlockables and stuff. So, I filled it up with a bunch of Panthers related stuff. Not really, again, haven't spent a huge amount of time in this game picking up trophies or unlockables or whatnot. So I can't really say all that's in here as far as the unlockables are concerned. But you can decorate a lot of your crib. Your crib in the second game was a lot more extensive, and you had a second level to play with. Here you just have the first level of some house or building to fill up however you would wish to fill it up. And so you can look around at your options. You've got all the little Panther game balls hanging out. And there's an NFL 2K1 poster. The 2K series was the competitor to Madden during the Dreamcast era. And one of the things that sort of stood out about it is that Randy Moss was their cover character or cover athlete for pretty much the first 3 or 4 games. And I was exposed to a little bit of the series on the Dreamcast, courtesy of my roommate's Dreamcast. But here we are, of course, on the Xbox here with 2K4. 2K4, of course, has the big picture of Warren Sapp's face on the front of the box. That was another big thing that I think the 2K Sports franchise did in that year was try to put faces for those games. The 2K football franchise eventually disappeared when the NFL entered an exclusivity deal with EA, so that NFL or ESPN NFL Football 2000 or 2K5 was the last of the series to be produced. Although there was an attempt by 2K to revive at least the football nature of the game by creating something called Hall of Fame Football several years ago, where they used a bunch of retired players on sort of dream teams in order to create a football game with a similar experience to the way the 2K games used to play. The 2K is probably best known for their NBA game, which the NBA never did an exclusivity deal, and the 2K games are arguably have been superior than the EA basketball versions of the games for some years, or at least they have a better reputation these days. So, when the next 2K game comes out in basketball, people are usually pretty excited. Whereas I don't really hear that for the NBA Live series is the EA version. And if you saw my user stats there just briefly, you'll notice that I haven't played this whole heck of a lot of this game. Again, I think I played through maybe a season just for the sake of doing it. Otherwise, I probably just played through a series of exhibition games. This game included several game modes, including tournament and first-person football, where you could sort of look through a helmet and try to adjust based on what you could see. It wasn't particularly easy, and there was, and fortunately there was only a couple of trophies just for completing a game and winning a game in first-person mode. So it wasn't hugely important. There were a lot of historic teams, but a lot of them were just sort of clones of each other. And then I had some created teams back here. And so for the purposes of this playthrough, I'm going to be using one of my created teams versus the 2002 rosters that they give you here. Ordinarily, I would use the Panthers, but the Panthers 2002 roster is reflective of their 2001 season. When the team went. Actually, I take that back. I don't really remember what I may have done to these rosters. Remember, I played with the Madden 2002 rosters. But this game has different button controls than Madden. Some of the buttons are similar, like the juke button being the right trigger is a little bit similar. But I was probably more a fan of these controls in these early games than I was of the Madden controls. I use the A button a lot. And you can see that as we go up against Chris Berman's selected team, we are probably at somewhat of a disadvantage. So again, even though my team had high ratings, it doesn't necessarily have a lot of depth because I picked a bunch of players that I just sort of liked versus players that were the best at what they did. So you can see the late great Junior Seau being introduced as sort of the guy who's going to make the difference this game. Another feature of the 2K games was the same two generic announcers. And it was, I forget, you would have heard their names just a second ago, but I remember the color guy, his name being Peter O'Keefe. So what 2K tried to do here with this game is they tried to basically turn it into a spectacle, more so than the Madden series. So they brought in all the ESPN personalities, the ESPN type shows. So that's why Chris Berman does the pregame. He's also going to do the halftime stuff. You saw the ESPN sort of field the menus. But they didn't yet take full advantage of it. I'm not sure that they ever really did as far as the announcing team. We'll just have to look back at 2K5 when we get there and see if that actually did happen. All right, so there Marshall Faulk tries to run it against us, and Derek Brooks shuts him down. So we've got some guys, but my lineups were a mess. And I didn't realize how much of a mess they were until I actually looked at the depth chart settings later in the game. But you can tell we're against a all-star team here when, Terrell Owens and Jerry Rice are the wide receivers on the other side. So speaking of Owens, and Teddy Bruschi kind of cover him up there. And then Marshall Faulk got open, and so we gave up some yards. Now again, we're talking about a game I haven't played in a while here, and it doesn't play like the Madden or college football series from EA. So there's not a lot of carryover, really, between the two. So I was trying to, sort of get back into what defenses look like what. I do think that this the ESPN 2K game did a better job of showing you what a play would look like on the field. But there were other issues such as route running and some other things that we'll run into later. And yeah, get ready to see a lot of Mike Alstott.
Keep getting him the ball, guys. They move the ball, and it will be second down. Second and 6.
Now, one of the things with this created team was what I was trying to do when I edit rosters is move retired players out. So some of these guys, whenever I created this roster, were retired guys like Bruce Smith. Not necessarily at the top of their games at this point in their careers. But, this is moving them to a custom roster would, keep them in the game without having to delete them from the game or having them on a team and changing their ratings. Unfortunately, we couldn't quite smash Alstott down on 3rd and inches, and he gets the first down there. Now I'm going to be playing a lot of 4-3, not so much nickel, and a lot of zone. Again, just because I'm not exactly aware of how good my coverage team is at this point. And Jerry Rice there gets by Darrell Green and scores a touchdown and dunks it on us. And here are the rather strangely proportioned cheerleaders.
Jerry Rice is going to make...
And you can see what happened even in the brief highlight there that I cut off, that Green clearly went for the interception and couldn't get back to the play when Rice caught the ball. But being down 7-0 with 2:17 to go in the first quarter, I wasn't particularly thrilled about that because I wasn't exactly sure how my offense was going to come back or how offense would play. Here's Anquan Bolden on the kickoff. One of the fascinating things for me in going back and playing this game was looking at the players that were available in 2004. And it's amazing how some of them are still around. Guys like Bolden, but it was also amazing the guys who obviously aren't there anymore. And so you can see we've got access to challenges. We have access to game plan where we can make substitutions. Okay, and we're going to be running a lot of run stuff with Kevin Barlow. Why Kevin Barlow, who, his best years were with the 49ers around this time? I think he did something. I think there was some story about his past or his off-field contributions or something that caused me to put him in there. My fullback on this team is Mike Anderson, the Denver Broncos, I think he was a former Marine.
First down with the tight end right.
Yeah, my quarterback is Steve McNair. Again, the late, great Steve McNair.
Picks up one on the play. Second and 9.
All right, so now I'm going to liven things up a little bit and throw it and target Andre Johnson here coming over the middle. Again, a young Andre Johnson, so an Andre Johnson with plenty of speed and good size, so that's why I felt good about throwing it to his way here. Again, I'm trying to do conservative play calling because I'm just not used to the controls again. So here I'm going to go with the toss play, and fortunately it catches them off guard. Barlow breaks a few tackles, and we get a little bit further up the field here. I did sort of like the dynamic way that they handle replays in this game. You know, you got to see his season stats in the previous year, or maybe his stats from this game, just depending on what the game decides to show you. And they usually show you a camera angle that's different than the one that you saw when the play started. And I realize tip balls mean that, you know, interference is no longer a thing, but that pass looked a lot more dangerous than I thought it was going to be. All right, here I'm going to run to the weak side with Barlow and get about 5 yards, setting up third down, so I am going to have to throw it. And my preference would be to try to find Johnson on another play. My other receivers are Eric Moulds and Deion Branch. But we don't do it before the end of the quarter. So, again, we get a shot of the strange face and haired cheerleaders. And we go back onto the field for the second quarter. Right, so I try to hit Todd Heap over the middle, and that fails. We're at the 26-yard line. It's 4th and 5. And, yeah, I'm going for it. Even though Adam Vinatieri is my kicker, I'm not been thrilled with how I've kicked off in this game. So I stay away from it. I find Andre Johnson over the middle, and we're able to keep the drive going.
Johnson has a guy shadowing him, but still manages to make the catch.
You got to be careful because the pass rush, particularly when the other team is as loaded on the defensive line as this one is, can get to you quite quickly. And in all of these football games, they're always closer to you than you think they are. And so you'd be surprised when your guy gets hit and you think, there's no way he could get to me, and he does. So now Barlow's going to get really close to scoring, and if we could have powered through. There is a power charge button. It's the Y button, but because it's the Y button on the top of the controller, I'm not really getting to that one very much. But we're on the 1-yard line. And so I'm looking for basically a fullback running play here. I'm not finding it. So instead, I'm just going to run a very familiar formation, one of my favorites, just because you position the 2 wide receivers to one side and force the defense to commit. And you'll also know what coverage they're running, because if they're running zone, then the cornerback on the left side won't go anywhere near the 2 wide receivers in the formation. But we get Kevin Barlow to plunge over the line, and now we're looking at a extra point here.
Here's the extra point, and it's good. There's the signal, and
All right, and again, we don't quite get the kickoff that we want
Smith kicks it off.
from Hunter Smith.
Fields it at the 13.
And then Jerry Rice is going to break a big return on us. And I'm sorry, not Jerry Rice, Troy Brown. The problem with a lot of these all-star teams that the game puts in there is that they wear duplicate numbers and stuff. I went through this roster and actually made sure the numbers were different, although that did weird things, like it made Chris Carter number 82. And so initially I wasn't sure that it was him. you'll see he's my kick returner for some reason. All right, and I thought I had good pursuit there with the defensive tackle, but didn't get there in time. And Jerry Rice continues to burn us in his 19th season at a Mississippi Valley State. Of course, you know, he is the best who's ever played that position, so it's kind of hard to complain about him having success. Then that ball bounced around a lot, but we could not come up with it in knocking it away from Mike Allstott.
Even though he's a back versus a wideout, it's still rare to see him drop those.
Yeah, you're right, Dan. For a back, he's got great hands.
You'll notice I'm not making a lot of formational audibles like I was in the EA College Football 2003 game. I'm basically sticking to the formations and just trying to make it work. And, you know, there's Marshall Faulk again. At this point, Faulk was kind of getting toward the end of his career. But, you know, still a very dangerous player because player ratings usually in these games don't decrease as quickly as they increase. So once you become a star in the league, you're going to remain a star, you know, for a long time, and your rating is going to reflect that even if you're not playing at that level anymore. The NBA 2K series has tried to be better about that, and part of that comes with trying to do roster updates like mid-season. But, you know, you can see what's happened to Kobe Bryant's rating in the last few games. Of course, now he's retired, his rating in the next game will probably be perfect. Right, so right now I'm rearranging my rosters to get better players into positions where they can make a difference. Although I am going to leave Darrell Green, who is a personal favorite, you know, with his 21 years in the league. And there we go. So now we should be fine as far as, you know, who's on the field and putting our best group out there.
Down with two tight ends to the right.
So now on the defensive line, I've got Dwight Freeney on one side and Derek Burgess, who was rated better than I thought he would be. Since his 2004, a little early for Derek Burgess to be a big factor. And then in the middle, we've got Big Gerard Warren, who is a personal favorite of me and my college roommate at the defensive tackle spot. Right, now we're going to go into the 2-minute warning here, and of course, Brett Favre and his offense are still threatening, so you know, we're still trying to shut them down here, force them to kick a field goal, something, keep them out of the end zone. All those cliches. And that time the ball was nowhere near his guy, but Blaine Bishop couldn't quite get to it for the pick. So we've done our job. It's 4th and 10. I'm going to play it safe and expect them to go for it, even though they're kicking the field goal. And the reason I do this is because blocking a field goal is a relatively rare event anyway. So, you know, I'll take my chances with Gary Anderson calling a fake. this would have been, I think, the end of Gary Anderson's career. But again, everybody's ratings kind of hold on a little longer than you might expect them to. All right, so we've got Bolden returning the kick here. Got a couple of nice blocks. Unfortunately, nobody blocked Randy Moss. And now we got a minute 48 to try to go and answer this score. Now, that's plenty of time in this game. So I'm once again looking for a running play that'll get me down the field a little ways. So I'm going to go for a strong ISO play. I was sort of a big fan of ISO plays. I think you've probably noticed that in both the college football and the Madden 2002 playthrough, as well as this game. Of course, some things about ISO plays are supposed to read the block. And they're not always the best at doing that. Because if you follow the theory of an ISO play is you follow the fullback. Okay, that was a little dangerous. Tried to sneak it into Andre Johnson, but they were watching for it. And so now it's 3rd and 8, and we are we're in a part of the field. We don't really want to do something stupid here. I also don't want to call a draw play. So I've got some crossing routes going on. And it deflects off of Ty Law's hands, and we're going to be looking at punting here. So our drive at the end of the half essentially fails. We're going to need to punt here, and we're going to need to hold them for the last minute 24. Keep the score at a 3-point deficit. Right, so I think that's Troy Brown again. And now we're going into the now we're going to go into prevent defenses. It might seem a little bit early for this, just because they're lined up in what looks like a running formation here, and they do run it. But one of the nice things about these games is the benefit that they give to speed. And so defensive backs, who typically move faster than linebackers, can at least get somewhere where they can throw themselves into the path of a runner and slow them down enough for other people to finish them off. So that's why I'm not really concerned by the fact that I'm playing all this time defense. I'm now also calling timeouts because it's looking like I might get this ball back. All right, we got a spread formation here. A little early for spread formations to be well done in these games, and we do break up the pass. So we're going 4th and 7, and I've got Chris Carter back to return this punt. At least I think it's Chris Carter. I guess I would beg the question why I didn't put Chris Carter as my first wide receiver. So maybe it's actually a different Carter. But whatever. We've got 35 seconds to get down the field, so we're just going to chuck it Raiders style. And see what the heck happens. And the first time I throw it, the pass rush gets to me and they block the pass. Like, okay, that's not cool. All right, I'm looking for Eric Moulds running the crossing pattern down the right side of the field. So I'm going to throw it over to Carter instead, just because I didn't like what I saw over there. And I actually get a little further down the field. I'm thinking, okay. So now I'm going to throw to Moulds. I beat I beat back the defender, which I couldn't have done with every quarterback, but can do with McNair. Found Moulds down the field, and darn it if we don't score the big Hail Mary touchdown to gain the lead here at the end of the half. Yeah, double coverage, not a problem. So now with 16 seconds to go,
Now the extra point and
we're up 14-10, and this game is looking a little bit different here. So I'm a little more comfortable. You know, I'm going to get the ball at the beginning of the second half. And so now I'm experimenting with the kickoff, and I'm going to kick it low.
there's the signal.
I'm not going to kick it hard enough.
Smith kicks a short one. Brown takes it at the 14.
And so now I got to worry about Troy Brown again.
Brought down at the 33.
Troy Brown got a few yards off the run.
All right, and now we can play prevent defense, because this is, you know, other than running out the clock, this is pretty much all they can do.
Offense takes the field with the clock at
And they're lined up in I formation, which suggests that they are going to indeed run out the clock.
Brown goes in motion.
All right, so then Favre takes off.
Visiting team
He fumbles when he gets hit by Quentin Jammer. And Marcus Trufant picks up the ball for us. And now all of a sudden, with 8 seconds left, we are on the 36, which is
with the clock at 8.
not really good field goal range. But we got a timeout, so we can stop the clock if this Hail Mary works. Remember the last time we did this, we got Molds to score a touchdown for us. We're going to be looking for something similar here, although we threw it. Yeah, so Molds has got it. 2 seconds left. We call the timeout. We send in Vinatieri. We can kick it from the 14 here. And somehow we go from a game where we were down 7 to a game where we're up 7 in just a little under a minute before the half.
Kicks it from 32 yards and
Sort of a strange turn of events. That's just the way it goes sometimes.
Vinatieri has little trouble.
and that'll do it for the first half of this one.
And that's the half. And I'll see you for the end of the game next time.
Let's send